Okay, here we go.
Welcome to Shareholders of a Better World, brought to you by TBLI Group. At TBLI Group, we have an established reputation as an organization dedicated to building the ecosystem of global sustainability and impact investing. We're doing this through educating, advising, and facilitating transactions in global sustainability and impact business, as well as capital solutions for private companies, family offices, and fund groups. For nearly 25 years, TBLI Group has created a vertically integrated ecosystem of education to action through TBLI conferences and TBLI consulting. More about our company can be found at tbligroup.com. This webinar is brought to you by TBLI Foundation, which hosts educational learning experiences dedicated to a better planet. Through the foundation, we build sustainable communities by sharing the people and the experiences making a difference to so many of our lives around the world. Our weekly podcasts bring impact thought leaders that are doing and not only chatting. Now let me introduce my guest today.
Okay, well, thank you all very, very much. Let me just get Olinga back in. So today we, because of a screw up on my part, I forgot to press the record button the last time. So Olinga was very kind to join us again. So we won't forget that. And today, for those of you who have never joined before, if you just briefly in the chat area, just introduce yourself, say hi, I'm so-and-so here. If you have any questions, just post it there and I'll address that. I'm really thrilled to have Olinga Taeed, who's really one of the superstars in AI as well as blockchain, and probably 1,000 other nerdy stuff that I don't understand. And he's going to try to explain and make it clear what is the potential that AI offers, because we have lots of fear on one side, like 2001 Space Odyssey, where AI just takes over everything, and on the other side, the potential for addressing a lot of issues, particularly things that are close to us around sustainability and impact investing. So Olinga, thank you so much for doing this. So for those who don't know who you are, you know, there are still a couple of people in outer space that haven't heard from you. So just briefly give us your journey and your big purpose.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Robert. So my background is I was a normal corporate animal, and up till about 15 years ago, 2008. And 2008, I had a lot of staff, around 9,000 staff, and businesses, and something on NASDAQ and London Stock Exchange, etc. But I went through a life-changing intervention, really, unwanted. But my daughter had a couple of breakdowns in 2008, and she hears voices 24/7. And it changed my life, not only because I became a carer and I sold my businesses, but because it changed my outlook. And ostensibly, in a nutshell, I understood what financial value meant and the dollar, but I didn't understand non-financial value like happiness and hope and empowerment, etc. So I went about studying a couple of fancy prof titles for no reason in British universities, and then a few more in other universities. And I came up with a way to measure impact, and it accidentally took off because it became the instrument behind many laws in the UK under the Social Value Act 2012, the Modern Slavery Act 2015, and then laws in the EU, 5 different EU countries, India, Indonesia, etc. And it's data-driven, and if you want to bore yourself, you can hear my speech to the Pope in the Vatican on YouTube, but The essence of it is this, that there are data techniques used way before all this stuff on ESG. And the tech companies, which I now work with, especially Chinese ones like Tencent and Baidu and Alibaba and so on, have been working on data to change our lives. And I'm sure everyone here knows the way this works, but I'm just going to summarize what I said 2 weeks ago in about 5 minutes. And essentially, first there was big data, lots of data. Then we started congregating it into communities. And so hence Facebook, and now Meta was created, where we have communities of interest. And the next leverage that happened was through a technology that's called sentiment analysis. And that ostensibly is about measuring how we feel about things and then selling stuff to us based on that. So if I was to WhatsApp Robert, on WhatsApp or Gmail, all read automatically, on Instagram, all read, machine learning will read the message. And they go, Olinga is saying to Robert, his knee hurts. Where is he on his mobile phone? He is over in UK right now in this specific position, and this is the browser he's using. Put an advert for knee joints to Olinga, and then we all go, oh my God, how did they know? How did they, is Alexa listening to us? Is Siri listening to us? They analyze everything to see what your needs are and what's worrying you, and that's called sentiment analysis. And a few years ago, that changed again and has moved on to using AI with sentiment analysis. And that is looking at our values, because they are not only want to get into our minds, but they want to get into our hearts. Not, and their quid pro quo is really, look, we give you Instagram, Gmail, WhatsApp, WeChat. Shut up. Don't complain. Give us your data so we can sell you more stuff. And my take was that actually, let's take the data and make the world into a better place. Let's transact goodness. And I kind of mentioned last time, it's like the carbon of goodness. Basically, you should be able to transact goodness through our data and be able to not just measure love, but actually transact love. Now, how that is the technology behind it. And for those who kind of now much more familiar with it, and of course, TikTok is a very great example of AI in operation, because previous, if you look at, for example, what it took over, like Instagram is a technology of envy. You go, Kim Kardashian, wow, she's got all this and she's such a great looker, and et cetera, et cetera. I want to be like Kim Kardashian. So it's a platform of envy. And then you go, well, if you want to be like Kim Kardashian, you got to buy these things. And of course, advertising is the fundamental bedrock of Google and advertising on searches and so on. What TikTok did is they went further. They went, actually, we're not going to base it on what you envy. We're going to base it on what your values are. So TikTok is the area where you actually look at things that really you want to look at, the real content you want to look at. And their advertising model is not to put an advert there. They go like this. They go, you want to get to people like Olinga who have these values. Okay, so we can tell you, we're not going to tell you what he watches, but we can tell you who he watches and who are influencers and who are his, what they call KOLs, key opinion leaders, celebrities, influencers, actors, and so on. And you go into a private arrangement, which they don't get involved with, between your company and that influencer to get to Olinga, because Olinga is not going to listen to you. You see, advertising no longer works. It's considered to be a dead medium, whereas influencer, 80%, 75 to 80% of Chinese and a market and Western markets are now through the KOL market. And so they say that person can influence Olinga. That's what he really wants to watch. That's the person that he really takes regard. Okay, So what does that, that's the technology behind it. And that's how our data is moving very fast towards a values-based platform. And there are now quite a lot of research programs globally around getting a genome of values, you know, like sentiment analysis has a genome of how we feel. Values, we have 8 billion values because we have 8 billion people. And each person has around 4 profiles on social media, for example. You have one with your share with your parent, with your family, one with your work colleagues, you know, one with your partner, and one you should keep secret, you know, that you don't talk about to anyone else. And so generally speaking, this is much more about deep dive into what's in our hearts. And the by 2030, it's pretty well established that there's going to be a complete genome of our values, and people will sell based on our values. And in the ESG world, of course, this is very germane because, you know, ESG, as Robert and I have spoken previously, has kind of has waned, okay, has hit the peak and gone down. And the reason, I said to Robert, I remember a few years ago going to Zug to my first ESG conference, and hearing about BIPs, you know, this is 0.01%, you know, increases, bamboos are good, not because you're helping people, but because it's 0.01% better ROI than something else, you know. And I went, wow, aren't we supposed to be trying to make the world a better place, not look at the ROI issue? And so, because just like advertising, people do not make decisions based on how much carbon there is in something. They make their decision on how they feel. I will have this honey because it makes me feel great. I love these trees, not because it represents so much carbon, because they make me happy. And so that is the direction of travel, where high-tech companies, whether it's Alibaba or Tencent or Amazon or Google, Microsoft, etc., Apple in particular. This is the direction of travel tech is taking, and we in the ESG world are frankly about a little last Thursday. We still go, okay, how many trees, how much carbon? How many trees, how much carbon? Because we have a system in impact investing which is separating the good that it creates with the profit that it makes. And we go, there's a transaction which is financial, and then there's a non-financial transaction over here, whereas the rest of the tech world has gone to integrating the financial and non-financial models, quite so that every time, you know, every coffee you have, I'm chairman of a company that is Asili, that's Kenyan coffee, that every time you drink that coffee, you must connect directly with the bean, the people, the woman who's harvesting it, her children. You must be able to emotionally connect to those people and say, that's not any bean, that is my particular square meter of bean. And there's technologies like blockchain, which allow you to allocate and trace that product, plus the goodness it's creating, etc. So as you can kind of see the impact. Now, what is interesting, I'm going to say something fairly controversial, and I'm sure I'm going to get quite a lot of annoyed people on this, but, you know, in the coffee business, like in the electric vehicle business, in the coffee business, typical of Africa, which a lot of ESG, of course, goes into, you know, it's 450 billion marketplace, but the growers only get about 5% or less. In fact, they are getting it at less than cost price. And where the margins go are 25% to Starbucks and the retailers, and 30% to the roasters, because to make it smell right for us, to make it taste like, because that is what we value. We don't value, you know, we go, the granules of coffee. You know, we work with coffee makers in Vietnam. We have some investments there, and you know, where you go, 98% of coffee granules in Vietnam are from Vietnam in Europe, but no one goes in and says, "I want a Vietnamese coffee," because what we care about is the bottle, how beautiful the Starbucks environment is, how peaceful it is, and so the lion's share of margin is going to these people who give you a beautiful experience and a great feeling. And yet the people who are at the bottom end of that supply chain are the ones who are doing it at margin or less than margin, harvesting, etc. And so to change this marketplace and to change, how ESG works, we have to have these things combined. I've just been asked to give a speech at the first electric vehicle mineral conference in the world, which is in East African countries. I heard 9 presidents of East African countries, where a majority of these materials come from. They are accused of child labor. And of course, because they are harvesting, they are mining these minerals at so low margins that they are unfortunately, are tempted to have to use, modern slavery techniques, just like they do in coffee, like they do in wheat, etc., so that a white guy can sit in a Tesla or in a BYD car in China, which is bigger than Tesla, and go, wow, isn't this cool? I feel so empowered. This is just so quiet. It's so clean. It's so beautiful. It's whisper. To experience that, a lot of harm is done in the supply chain, not just the margin, but in endangering people and their health and everything else that goes with it. So there is a movement now in all these kind of markets of disintermediation, to take out these intermediary levels or to flatten those levels so that you don't have all the money taken over here. And we say, oh, look, we're such a great ESG company because, or we're not a great ESG company, but we buy carbon credits and now we're a great ESG company. It's actually to take it out. So my thesis to you, and I'd like this to be a discussion, is I believe ESG impact investing is one of those intermediaries that's actually quite possibly now had its day. It's creating more problems than it's one of those intermediaries that we need to flatten out. And the movement that has started in that process was about 5 years ago. And again, it actually started in China. This whole, and I have to declare that I sit on the Chinese committee of 7 on blockchain. We're kind of regulator for that sector. But the fact is that in the what you now call the token market that came out of China originally, because using what's called RWAs, real world assets, as something that Robert's son knows well about in Hong Kong, you're able to capture both financial value and non-financial value in one. And so all that stuff that happened in crypto, leaving out the sort of 98% scams, of course, is the fact that it managed to directly involve the person in the street with money donated to that cause over there. They had a direct connection. They did not go to a VC. They didn't have to go to a stock market to invest. They didn't have to go through all these institutions. It's a direct connection. And of course, yes, people did lose money. But the fact is, it allowed them to feel empowered as part of a movement. They feel about this, about trees. They feel about this, about, clean air, climate change, Black Lives Matter. They feel about child poverty, and they are able to donate money direct and see a return without that intermediary. And so ESG impact investing is becoming less and less irrelevant. Relevant, I should say, sorry. And so, and indeed, what's interesting is that this is the part of the investment paradigm that's now been adopted by major players, in the institutional investing. If you know anything about that kind of sector, you'll know, I'm sure, that things like Bitcoin has had a huge resurgence. And the reason is that these institutions have now adopted it as like an exchange of like gold, basically a safe haven to invest in. But it's becoming part of the paradigm and lexicon of our language and of our methodology for investment, to look at instruments that can do both financial and non-financial. And why Robert mentioned I was the world's first professor in blockchain, and why blockchain intrigued me was because it's a platform where you can arbitrate between financial and non-financial. You can put love as a token and also money as a token, and you can arbitrate because of the same common value of assets. Because all blockchain does is the movement of assets from A to B, like money, but also like kindness, hope, happiness. These are also great assets. So the first, my thesis is that actually I think ESG is declining and has been declining for some time, and is really a very old instrument because it fails to integrate the two things together. And in fact, it's just like the coffee business. It's just like wheat. It's just like EV business. It's an intermediary that is out of touch with people's movement of wanting to connect directly from their heart, directly with a product. And that the transaction, if I drink a coffee, I need to know. I want to connect. You can charge me a greater premium because I am connecting to that very end result. Okay, so let's kind of, I made 3 notes because on this little discussion, Robert asked me to focus out. Last week was really all about the tech and the idea and the tech that's coming through internationally on this. And this time he wanted me to talk more about AI investors, AI into the ESG sector, why it's not happening, and so on. Okay, so let's talk about how I think AI is coming, and I think it's obviously we all know AI is coming because as we all know, you can't say any subject without adding the word AI on it right now. It's not happening without the word AI, right? So the question is, where does AI play in this sector? Right. So I've talked about disintermediation, and what AI does, it gets the alignment of, let's say, a product or a project or an organization and a process, and aligns it to the people who are interested in that. So it is like, imagine what we need, what we're looking at is what's developing is a TikTok of ESG, right? It's basically saying, this is what I really want. I remember giving loads of speeches at fund forum meetings on ESG, etc. And people getting up and going, we invest in homelessness and blah, blah, blah. And I remember saying, man, have you actually ever been to a homeless shelter? And they go, no. I go, okay, then, you need to touch grief, man. You need to touch the pain that we see to understand it. And most of us cannot touch this grief. So AI helps us to evaluate our own values and match it to the area, the investment that we want. And so AI is a major force for that alignment, and it's being used in like smart speakers now, in all kinds of messaging services, because people no longer want to know what's the time, Alexa, in Honolulu. They want to know, what would my dead father have advised I should do at this moment? So the AI must know what the values of my father are, what my values are, and to bring it together and go, I think this is the area your father would have liked you to work in and invested in. I want AI, Alexa, whoever you want to use, Siri, tell me, I want eggs, but I haven't got much money. I'm on social benefits, but I want it to be organic, if possible. And so the AI arbitrates, goes, okay, look, I am your personal bot. I am going to tell you, Olinga, you haven't got much money, but I am going to give you these recommendations to buy, which is a little bit more expensive than your normal, but I think this is the sort of money you can afford. So most of you know AI quite rightly as something that just generic code cannot do. AI is a companion. It can actually go beyond just coding. It can learn, and it learns. And you all know about generative AI, ChatGPT, because they go, make me some art. write me this essay, write me this investment proposal. Now, it's early days. Any of you who have experience on the receiving end of such stuff, you'll know you want to self-harm immediately. You know, I saw a CV recently of someone. A friend told me, look at my daughter's CV, and I looked at it. I went, wow. And she said that she applies for 72 applications a day, which of course you and I, we all know can't be possible. But I said, this has been written by AI, isn't it? Because it had nothing in it about that person. It had no emotional content, you know, and so the AI is having to learn that emotional content to impart it and go, you know, this is passionate about. What are you passionate about? So this is where AI is really moving towards expressing what's in your heart, what's in your soul, how you would behave, you know, beyond and much more than early days of implementation, like in art, haven't been greatly successful. Yes, it can replicate, it can do fakes, it can do, you know, in China, we have this issue around, of course, you know, if influencer marketing is the main way, KOL marketing, what happens is people who are human, like me, you know, they get drunk and they say things against the government. Okay, fair enough. And they go, and so the government, China went, wow, well, we can't have that. So why didn't you replace the people with actually like an animation? Okay, they started with animations. It got better, especially premium class products like handbags and premium fashion. And then they said those products got better, became fakes, and that became deep fakes. So you could not tell the difference between that person and the real person. And now in China, we have a huge problem. We have the deep fake of a deep fake. And so we have people faking the deep fakes better than the original fake. And this is a real issue. I chair a kind of media group in New York, which you know consists of all the big players, all the boys, you know, they're all there, and they all hate each other. And the fact is, especially because TikTok, you know, ByteDance has eaten the lunch of a lot of them. But there, in the world we're moving into, we have fake products, we have fake people, we have fake currency, we have fake organization, fake customers. And so in this online metaverse movement that we're going into, the fact is it's a real challenge. And the only thing that we can attach ourselves to is actually our real values, because everything else can be fake. Is actually how do you really feel about this? And so they are moving very fast, these companies that you all know about, companies to actually get what's in your heart and to attach it to the company or to the product. And so this is one of the first steps in the ESG world, where we're going, these people look at these things that really matter to them. It's not, you know, four guys in an office, we're going, okay, carbon, what's the carbon offset here? Okay, no one can, honestly, you know, really, I'm being rude, but, you know, the people watching TikTok don't give a damn, you know, and these are the real people, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's, you know, one thing is about ESG alignment, and that is going to change and is changing, and it's changed already in the retail end of ESG investing. People directly investing in that. You know, it's no longer just people investing in a polar bear, you know, in Russia. They are actually investing in sectors, and they're finding to get return. And so I think this alignment of values where ESG needs to move to get back on track, because all the tech companies moved there 20 years ago. And we in the ESG world, impact investing world, frankly, are way, way behind. The second thing is about, now Robert asked me to look at due diligence and AI insights. Okay, I don't feel at this moment that due diligence DD is going to make much a difference in AI, okay? Because frankly, a lot of it is factual, you know, did this happen? What is your birth? You know, show me your passport, blah, blah, blah. Okay. it can make things quicker and easier, and that's kind of low level. You don't need AI, frankly, for that. So let's not sort of pretend that we should be using AI for low end stuff. It can do, of course, scouring of the internet, finding out about you, blah, but many other technologies can do that. Where it does make a difference, I was speaking with Robert and no, sorry, Robert's son in Hong Kong a few days ago. And he mentioned, I said, how do you guys operate? He said, da, 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 da. We have these fantastic social impact investors on one side and institutions, etc. And then people come to us on this side and go, I'd like some help. And, it's got a matching service. But in the end, I said to him, but it's a lot of hunch, isn't it? In the end, there is, without Robert's great genius and relationships that he has built with many of you, it's not just a little spreadsheet with, if you're interested in trees, go to this person, right? It's about Robert going, this kind of person may be interested in you because your story as an investor, investee, might appeal to that person. The reason why I was in Hong Kong was because, a kind of side note here, but it's interesting, is my daughter who developed voices and his voices has been art for 15 years, never once sold, refused to sell. And she won't even, cross the park without me, okay? Because psychosis, right? It's serious stuff. And it's a hard gig, 24/7. And she was asked to put two pictures, which I said, okay, give them 2 of your 40 pictures, paintings, and see how it goes. And, come to Hong Kong, experience. She didn't give a damn about the money, not at all, never once. And so we went there, and immediately I can say to you, this is gorgeous. And then you go, yeah. In the art world. And you go, but this is done through someone hears voices 24/7. And now is provenance, isn't it? That's a story behind it. That suddenly has much greater value in the art world. And she wasn't shocked, but I was shocked because they went for astronomical amounts. Okay. I mean, really big, 6-figure sums.
Wow.
All right. So it was a shock to me. It's 7 days since that happened. And not once has she said to me, Dad, how much do they sell for? Not right? Because money has no value. It is to her. She said, is money going to stop me hearing voices? No, it's not. So that's interesting, isn't it? So the point I'm making is that the story and the provenance of things have greater value for people. To say, okay, we make 50, we make 50 hives a day in bees, etc. I keep saying that because I have bees, yeah. But it's different to say, these are made in a special environment and with lots of love and attention. If I can convey that story, and nowadays we can convey that story, hence TikTok is so a creative medium has become such an important medium. And we all watch it and go, what? Well, how can that person have 5.8 million followers from nothing? They were in their bed sit 3 minutes ago. And they go, because they are creating value and based on their values. Okay. So again, I think, in this area of ESG, this is the direction that what it can do. It can pick up on these hunches that Robert has that goes, I think this organization will actually look at you as my hunch, but it can learn from Robert, because without it, if Robert, God forbid, something happens to Robert, we're stuffed, because we're going to lose all that great knowledge and feelings he has for the people. So we need Robert and brokers and TBLI and many others to actually bring in AI to capture that knowledge and align investors and investees and capture the hunch that we have. And that's what AI can do. Blockchain can't do it. Internet of Things can't do it. 5G can't do it. Web3 can't do it. You know, we all talk about these fourth industrial revolution techs, but AI can do it because it can learn. It can not just simply, Robert always said, talk to these people, so you should. No, it is actually based on the values of this organization. Because as we know, we may look at websites and they go, you know, we believe in helping Black children and trees, you know. Part of this instrument that I developed called the social earnings ratio many years ago, 2014, and became the fastest adopted impact metric in the world and using all these laws around the world. And part of that was I had to go to court maybe 5 times a year, every year. And that was always the guy who, because it's used in public sector procurement, a very, very narrow.
Okay.
And the guy who doesn't win the contract, 1.2 billion, you know, whatever, HS2, trains, whatever it is, the train, the bridge they have to build, they will always go to court and they'll bring their barristers and the lawyers and their CEO and they'll go, Your Honor, my CEO loves Black children and trees. We should have won this contract. And, you know, the answer I had to give, we've never lost. We never lost once, was, you know, our metric is consistently wrong. It's not the question, is it right? Because you and I know there are about 3,500 metrics out there, more now probably, but 3,500 metrics, and they all are aspects of the truth. But the issue about fairness in contracts is consistency. You know, you treat everyone on the same manner. And so because we were the adopted metric for these laws, we go, well, 2% CSR law in India and Indonesia, Mauritius, etc. We go, well, that's the law says our metric, and that's the number it gives. What can I say? And you know, so it's about that consistency of approach. You know, it's about AI coming in and it's not about the metric anymore. And what is the actual impact you're having? You know, it's about what we're used to is going, oh, this impact metric, that metric says this, you know, GRI, GRSI, whatever. There's quite a few big ones out there, even B Corp and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, B Corp, God's sake, you know, some of the biggest arms dealers are B Corps, you know. I tell you, you know, Coots Bank is B Corp, you know, what private banking for super wealthy, you know, okay, that's nice. But, you know, that we've lost these labels, we've lost that essence, whereas AI captures those things and says, actually, yes, they're, you know, B Corp and da. But actually, these are the values. And so Robert, last time we spoke, was talking about, you know, many experiences of investees. They go to VCs and they go, yeah. They always say, of course, you know, 2 weeks, your money will be in the bank, and 9 months later, right? 9 months later, go, yeah. Anyway, no. So, and you go, why? Well, you know, we're not really aligned to you. You know, we're not really think, you know, this is right for our. So it's that gray, you know, that gray area that it captures and goes, I will bring it. And yes, it helps in impact measurement. So one of my, you know, one of the things that I think is happening now, but only the start, is we're getting blended models. As impact investing is adopting these new tech solutions, they're having to work in an area where the people who invest, retail, can, and them, side by side, pari passu, can actually go and invest in these areas, because it's not just big money enabling, but they can also get the audience in there. And now you think, well, so what? So what, they can get the audience? So let me, you know, there's an old philosophical paradigm that says, you know, I'm sure you all know it, you know, if an acorn or an apple falls in the tree and you're not there to hear it, does it make a sound? If no one is there to hear it, does it make a sound? 50-50, who knows, right? But the point is, sound is a movement of air in the ear. And so if it won't create an impact if there's no story and message out there. So social media has actually 10-fold, 30-fold, 1,000-fold increase the impact of something. When an oil company drops oil into the lake and goes, yeah, don't worry, we've cleaned it up already. That's good. Thank you. But if they got the community around them to come together, they create the solutions, they get people involved. There's a whole ripple of movement out there that goes not just from the solution, but also the leadership that they've showed, the others that learn from them that they've shown. So, this is a much bigger impact than simply cleaning the oil. Yes, it solves the climate, but it needs to change the hearts and minds of all those out there. And social media is not just a kind of, something that you do something and then you put it out there in the news. It's actually a instrument of ESG impact investing, that we want to change the world and we want to change people's hearts and minds, and we will not do it just by ourselves. We're going to do it with everyone involved. And so impact measurement, as great as it is just one part. And impact measurement, I think early in those days, to be honest. I'm sure there's some great ones out there that now use social media and the power of social finance. And the way I kind of developed it at that time was this. When they asked me, I was advisor to something called Big Society, which was David Cameron, the Prime Minister of UK, and for 5 years. And about a more equitable society, etc. And I remember them saying, Olinga, we need to come up with a way, these bankers, this is post-2008. And they said, look, these bankers are still paying themselves massive bonuses. Can you do something about this? And in particular, a guy called Bob Morton, who was, Bob Diamond, who was CEO of Barclays, was paying himself in the end 18 million bonus. And they all went, well, it's legal. Okay, my shareholders love me. I'm a great performer. Shut up. And, apart from saying, well, he's American, and Americans love marketing. They believe marketing can punch through things. Hence, we go, did you sleep with Monica Lewinsky? No, I didn't. Yes, you sure? No, I didn't. Are you absolutely sure? What about this dress? We go, oh, yeah, okay. And yet we re-elect because Americans believe the power of marketing, and they have a point, because it actually can transform society and can push through these difficult areas. So at that time, they said, the problem is that all these corporations, they do good and blah, blah. We help 3 million children. I think it was 2.2 million, with Barclays said at the time. He said, but the only metric they care about is the PE ratio, the price earnings ratio, because that's the ratio that actually moves stock markets everywhere in the world. It's the price earnings ratio. It's the one universally adopted metric. So we came up with a social earnings ratio, and PE plus SE actually is total value of something. So, and indeed it's true. We buy a car, we go, okay, this car is worth, wow, a lot. And this is worth a lot, but they both just get you from A to B. But one makes us empowered and sexy and and the other, go, okay, it's functional. So we actually value these things that matter to us. And so impact measurement is important, but if you will increase the impact you're having in society tremendously if you also measure on the people whose lives you've affected and who follow you. And so these are new techniques that expand impact measurement greatly. So I hope, I want to leave some time to discuss the idea that ESG, for you to feedback and tell me I'm completely wrong, that ESG is actually an intermediary in this and actually taking value away from the very target that they're trying to help. But what I am saying is this movement of data is on its way. It's not trust me, it's not a Olinga's theory. I work with these guys in America and in China, and honestly, it's happening. And they, the idea that you do good here and then make impact over there, or, carbon or trees, number of trees, what is that? These companies they'll talk as we know, the woke statements will be there. But the essence of it, okay, the technology where they make their monies, it's not just companies, it's also governments. Governments use this stuff now in a very big way and fundamental way. The criticism that, for example, the Chinese get is about the social credit system. The social credit system, like it or not, goes, let me stop. America, the only thing that matters in America is the dollar, and you go, okay, if you're a black a woman or Mexican, if you have money, it's all cool. If you don't have money, then those three categories, you're stuffed, really. So the money is the metric of everything. In China, they have gone further with that. They've gone, okay, it's actually, according to their values, good behavior. And we will make that into a currency. So if you behave well, according to them, we will reward you. You can go first class, you can go abroad, blah, blah, blah. And if you don't, then, you're not going to give you those rewards. So at least it's a non-monetary rewarding system to say we are going to support good behavior or good society. Because they say in China, they go, we have 1.4 billion. We have 72 countries, BRI, One Belt, One Road. Afghanistan is 73. And so we can't, we're not going to be able to control 73 billion, through individual rights and blah, blah, blah. We can't do that. What they'll do is they go, we will use data systems. In the West, they go to monitor. That's what you're doing. You're monitoring everyone and their movements and what they do. And they go, well, we're just trying to make a better society. Now, I'm not here to get to the argument of what is, right or wrong, but I am here to say that this stuff is coming down this train, and it's not a past thing. It's not something futuristic. It's here already. It's actually being used all the time, and I think a lot of West is now moving to that area, and the whole kind of discussions around alternative currencies to the dollar, etc., are about that. Currencies that can convey culture and society. You will know that some of you will know that there are movements around central banking. About 83% of countries in the world now have got a digital currency coming. And you go, well, what's wrong with a normal currency? Nothing at all. What they're doing is a currency that conveys their values. This currency cannot be used, and you can program these digital currencies to convey the values of the country. You can have a Brexit pound, right? You have currency that conveys the values of the country, and you can go, we will foster development between these countries. If you normally, ESG is a bit like old school trade, where you go, if you wish to trade with this country, you've got to fill out 384 forms, do deep negotiation between our countries before we can buy chicken from you, and health and safety standards. Okay, where they're going to are technologies that actually take those standard and templates and say, if you comply with that, that's fine. But we will not want unhealthy chickens and chickens which have been restrained, etc., to come into our country. So these are these social values that are integrated into an agreement to make it quicker and faster. Like any disintermediation, whether it's Uber or, it's actually, it makes things a lot faster, a lot quicker, and actually impacts on their lives of the people who they could, before all those taxi drivers who couldn't get access to income, to the gig economy, etc. So I hope, without boring you guys too much now, I'll leave it at this point, but that this has been helpful to understand how AI is here, it's coming, it's already here. If it's into you watching TikTok, I assure you it's already into government systems, okay? And in some things much more prominent, like in China than in other countries.
Olinga, thank you. Listening to you is like trying to take a drink from a fire hose. So this has been spectacular. I'm really curious about how do I get my hunch processed by an AI system that it doesn't have to be, the burden is not on me because it doesn't allow kind of expansion or impacting more or mobilizing more. That's the 64. I mean, I get lots of people who want to suck PowerPoint slides out of me and then repackage it like McKinsey, and then they sell it, for lots of money. So I don't talk to them anymore. But I'm curious about this idea about the hunch conversion to a more accurate hunch. Let's put it that way.
The way that AI works, it has to be trained, okay, all including ChatGPT, etc. In fact, Robert, one of the differences between the West, which is especially America, where they have cornered the high-end AI, ChatGPT, and further larger models, what they call big models, is that they've been trained sometimes for years to a ton of data for it to go, okay. Now I can think for myself. What the Chinese have done is they've basically gone, we can't compete with that high-end stuff. We will compete with the low-end stuff. Cheap chips, a very cheap chip that will actually learn on the go. Like you can put it into a mobile. It can put it, that's why you see AI and everything, especially in China. They go, it will learn from what Roberts is doing, who he's talking to. It will learn that this is the way he interacts with people. It will learn, and hence they can also replicate you and so on. Now, it's scary, of course, okay? But let us not believe, honestly, you've got, oh no, we'll protect ourselves. I watched a great film on the plane about Polaroid cameras, and there's a whole movement about analog, God bless. Great. I loved it. I love watching a program. But honestly, it's like minute, all right? The fact is, what you need is an AI that learns your process, and that is not at all difficult to do. Learns your process and shadows you, sees how you operate, who you talk to, and it goes, actually 2/3 of the time, Robert, if that kind of person comes forward with this kind of product and this kind of proposition, Robert speaks to those kind of people, okay? And those kind of people, and eventually, of course, early days is going to be very crude, right? But by 2030, you're going to get, and those kind of people, they say this, but it's bullshit, okay? Yeah. They say this, but it's not true. So this is what they really mean, okay?
Yeah, because it's very much about the relationships. I often get people says, oh, you know so many people, just make a few phone calls. I say, yeah, all of my contacts are on the internet. You can go find them, but it's about the relationship. If you call your daughter, she'll answer the phone. If I call her, say, who are you?
Right.
So having those, trusted relation, and also because we never wanted to manage money, which doesn't create conflicts. But I'm fascinated by this idea about being able to translate hunches more accurately.
And the point being, Robert, it means that you can do better things with your time, all right? Rather than ringing the same person 6 times to try and get, to say, will you speak to this is guy called Olinga, he's a complete loser, but will you speak to him? Because I think he has an idea. It is an aid, and hence when people go, oh my God, AI is going to replace us all and we'll all be actually, it replaces the rudimentary stuff. It does not. It means we can do better work things which make us happier, things which make us think, able to bring values. Robert, I'm an old man, and I'm 64, and I've never been happier in my entire life than that moment now.
Wow.
Since 11, I've not been as happy as I am now. I get to talk to you. I get to learn. I get to talk about love. I get to, my daughter transformed me. I am grateful to her, even though it is at her loss.
Mm.
Fact is, every second of my life now, I live and breathe happiness because I really appreciate the conversations and the people, and they don't have to agree. Don't want them to agree. I learn from this. I am like a AI. I am learning constantly. And many of us know we have made our biggest learning paradigms, in life from the most contrasted conversations, that made us. And I used to say to people, I learned everything I have, frankly, from working on the factory floor as a
Mm.
young kid. I learned how people treat you, if you have no money, etc. And I was poor as a church mouse. I was unemployed for about 5 years in my 20s. But I learned what the values of people are. And, and so now I say, okay, I don't have to. The great thing about, chairing whatever dozen or so companies and blah, blah, blah around the world and governments and think tanks and things like this is I get to add value where I feel I can. And I'm just a very tiny, minuscule person in this whole big space. But I'm having a ball, honestly, I truly couldn't be happier, couldn't
So
be.
you don't miss having 9,000 employees?
No, not at all. This Acidic Coffee, the sister company's got 7,000 employees. I'm executive chair. I go, okay, well, big deal. Big deal. Google got 1 trillion. Whatever. You know, I love the thought leadership part. I feel that's, I learned my skills in the hard way, in the grind of running business and shouting and screaming and all the kind of Robert, recently I was interviewing and I don't think I'm giving any confidence away here for a non-exec director somewhere. And this woman, great CV, and she put in her signature, she put, I don't like, she put a sentence which is inspirational, but it said, I don't like bullying, I don't like microaggression, I don't like blah, 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 blah. My wife was passing by, looked over my screen and went, oh, she's met you then already. I went, no, that's not very nice. But I told her direct. I said, in this business, we're going to break eggs. I'm really sorry. Your points are absolutely right, but eggs are going to be broken. I think it'd be better as a non-exec in the foundation we're setting up, because not that, I'm even rethinking maybe I got it wrong. Maybe she should be in the main. The point is that, everyone can contribute. I am contributing in a tiny way. You're contributing in a scaled way. We can all contribute. And every day I make a absolute effort to touch grief. Absolutely every day. I want to be able to actually help people, etc., on an individual, because that's the only way I'm going to learn. And so, that's why I say ESG has become part of the institutional problem of the world. You go BP, da da da, okay, and ESG investing, okay, but actually we need to integrate this stuff, and I think ESG can do it. And I've learned in 2 weeks I've talked to you again for a long time. I have learned a lot from this, and talking to your son, I've learned a lot. But thank you.
My pleasure. I have a question from Patrick, if I can pose that. So, Patrick O'Hara was asking, occupational pension funds and other institutional investors have hundreds of thousands of members, all with different values and perspectives on single issues. How can we invest and take into consideration their disparate values? Can AI help, or should the ESG movement be values agnostic and focus on where these issues are financially material, i.e., impact returns?
Okay, so I think he knows the answer already, Thad, right? Okay, from the way it was portrayed, I think he knows the answer. The point is, we are already impact agnostic, all right? And look at financial returns and pension go, oh, thank you, great, we got some money back. But that's why I say the interim solution, the solution now is really a blended model. You need to engage with the people around you and people who are putting the money into the pension fund and going, where are your values? Where do you want to see it go? You know, and match it with the people where it's all going to. So, but of course, you still need, right now, we still need what the token investment market showed us is actually you can get amazing amounts of money into, you know, into crazy ideas, but it showed that people will invest and they're willing to lose their money, which is a sense of investing. So I think, you know, in that scenario that Patrick has explained, it's actually correct that you should engage with the people who are putting their great pensions and hard-working people who put their pensions in, where the source of money is, and also where you're saying you're putting the money in. And I think these blended solutions are going to lead, you know, to a much more efficient result.
How can I mean, most people will be watching the replay as always. How can we help you?
Well, million ways. I mean, I'm just one stupid guy, right? So it's you know, I'm trying to build flagship projects, Robert, that actually will lead to something, because what we now need to see are very prominent projects that convey what we're saying can be done. So I would love it if some of your people, as already has happened from the last time, would come direct and talk to me and say, you know, how can we do together? You know, how can we start looking at changing these mammoth beings of pension funds, etc., into something? How? Because, you know, what's great is this isn't a kind of stupid idea that you know, some crazy guy over here is coming up with. I'm telling you, this is what's happening in governments and in big tech companies. That is their bread and butter. That's how they operate. And that is what shocked, frankly, Meta. You know, this is what TikTok absolutely kicked their ass, because they've gone, hey, you know, you're the heart of capitalism in America. We're going to play this game, you know, but we're going to go beyond envy market. We're going to go to feelings and what you want to watch and show you how that has much greater monetary value. All right. So I think I would love support in terms of, I would love to engage with different markets, and together we can convey, we can build a better world. In the end, Robert, I want to create like the carbon credit of goodness. Okay. That's simply that. I want to be able to do good and get credit for doing it. I want to be able to go to Starbucks and they go through 5G phone, they go, okay, they don't go, Olinga, how disabled are you? How mentally ill are you? They go, we now know who you are. We're going to give you 38% discount automatically because we are aligned at Starbucks to your values. And we're going to reward that. And so that's the world we're heading to. And I think, frankly, we're about 5-6 years away.
Okay, well, I might have something along that. I'll arrange a call with you to tell you about a project that we're working on to kind of do that, but not in a in a super AI sophisticated way. But now I'm thinking about it, maybe AI is the way to go. This has been spectacular as always. But if you want to us, because we're going to send out the link to the replay to everyone who registered, and also part of the TBLI circle there. So if you want us to share anything with them, just, you know, either a report, a link, a video, or your email, or anything you want to share, just send it to me in a WhatsApp, and I'll put that out there. The replay is usually available very quickly. So, Olinga, thank you so much. And thanks again also for spending some time with Sam, our crypto genius. And I will come back to you about this idea which we started working on. And it's kind of in that line, but you kind of inspired about, could we use AI to power this rather than the old-fashioned bulletin board system?
Yeah, I mean, think of it, you should be able to spend goodness. Simple
Yeah.
as that. If you create goodness, you should be able to spend it. You should be able to go and spend it, and that is the power that retail can transform.
Okay. Spend goodness. Thank
And
you.
goodness, you should be able to transact goodness. Okay, take care.
Thank you so much for your time and for all your great work. See you all next week with Martin Rich. You stay well. Bye-bye. My best to you and your daughter. Bye-bye.